Um, yeah, so you just saw our value mentality post that someone reached out, a graphic designer, and was like, "Hey, I just love your guys' stuff. Is there anything we can do together?" A graphic designer. I said, "I'm so sorry we don't have much of a budget, but who knows?" Then this is a good way to get a job. They basically did a spec. They just made something of Circus Liquor designs that we have a shirt of, and they put it in front of this really cool pixelated background, and they sent it to us, and we're like, we have to use this. I'm sorry for a post, or I don't know the extent of it, but I would love to work with you. And she's like, well, maybe you send me a couple items of clothing. So we're gonna do that. And now she's got a fucking job because we're coming out with a new line of stuff. We have to just to drop it, and we're gonna sell out and everything just for the quarter. But like, I'm gonna go to her with the design. I'm not gonna do it myself. I'm gonna, maybe I might draw something up. But so yeah, I'm curious your thoughts. So you just saw the post for the first time, her post. Yeah, what are your
I
thoughts?
just think it's crazy that you already have a fan who's like making art on your art. There's no better feeling than that. That only happened one time for me where someone painted the fisherman, like my most successful short, they painted like a fisherman thing and like shipped it. And that happened once. When that happens and you make some art and someone responds with art back, there's no better feeling than that. It's
You
fucking
know,
dope.
great point. And I don't know what it says about what we're doing. I mean, my dad on some level isn't doing the Hollywood stuff that he would like to do. He loves to be a huge filmmaker and everything and for studios and stuff. And yet he was in cult films. He's widely considered on some level a very successful actor. And
Is
like his cult films, what's that?
directing the thing he most wants to do?
Of course, he gets to do it, and those are his passion projects. And his last movie was very successful by some standards. Is well
Barstool
received
Sports.
critics. Barstool Sports top 10 has as we go over like every single time on my part. But I think any type of filmmaker like that would love to do it on a big stage, and he's more than qualified to do so. So that being said, it's funny. A lot of his stuff in the past that may not have been successful at the box office or whatever has had huge art on that art. Like people, cult followings and stuff for his movie Rock and Roll High School that he was in back in the day with the Ramones. So I'm just I I find the subject that we're talking about interesting. Like, what does it mean when you start getting a big reception to the stuff that you're putting out there and people are like mimicking it or hitting you up about it to say they want to work with you, and there's a lot to it, so I love to analyze it. At the very least, it's a compliment, and it says that we've come a long way. But
Well, you're definitely making some kind of impact, and you're like someone making art off of your art. It means you're inspiring them in some way, which is it's fucking cool. It's fucking cool. It means you're making an impact.
the thing, and you got to appreciate that, you got to celebrate the small wins.
Of
But
course.
I think I've been at the point for a while where I know our products are good.
Yeah.
I appreciate them, and I
I said
know it
that
just needs
when I was
exposure.
staying up with Autumn and you, and I was looking, we were in this fucking I mean it wasn't bad or anything, but we were like in this what would you call that? What was
Little
this?
pop up at Silver Lake Farmers Market.
Like a little pop-up type thing. And I was looking at the product and I'm like you compare that product to whatever the fuck is on the rest of these tables. I said that to you too. I'm like, you got really good shit. And it's just a matter of like timing or the right person. It's really about the right person seeing it. Like one yes can make all the difference.
Dude, and I love the subject matter again. That was funny that you were there. I listened to Guy Raz's podcast, How I Built This, with the woman that did what's the Aviator Nation.
Hmm.
It's a if you don't know, it's the bougie clothing company that's very simplistic stuff with the lightning bolts on it. And it's kind of like girly and simple, but like with a little pizzazz, I would say. Not
Right.
too dissimilar from like Mad Happy. Anyway, she started just making her stuff very minimalistically on her own, crafting her own stuff. And she went to the clothing buyers at the companies for first was Fred Siegel, and she happened to be there, speaking of timing, at the exact time where the clothing buyer was there. And she was wearing her stuff and brought a little catalog, and the people bought it right there. And that's a huge order that she in publicity that she got in Fred Siegel. On the way out, across the street was Planet Blue, one of the trendiest girl companies in LA. Crafty, very high price point. And she's like, you know what? I'm already celebrating a win. I'm just gonna like try it up while I'm on this high. She went over there, met the buyer, sold it to them too, back to back. Bing bong. Talk about getting yourself in two huge houses where giant people are gonna see you. And like talk about what you just said, getting in front of the right people. That's it. I think for us, the biggest thing is gonna be the publicity exposure, getting in front of like, and so getting into like these really cool stores like Urban Outfitters, Fred Siegel, etc., or getting on a giant influencer is just going to be a matter of it. You got to just make it happen. And it's funny, man. I'm still talking to this one dude who is like a rep. He like champions different brands, and he's a big fan of ours. And we haven't really like snatched that deal together, but maybe we should still work with him. And you know, he just wants to keep the conversation going, but he was talking to us about like how to get into different places where we can get some publicity from being there, get some new eyes on us.
What you're talking about, like branding and clothing, it's completely applicable to the whole Hollywood industry as
Entrepreneurship, yeah.
tapping into very few of the right people. That's all that it takes. That's it. And I
That's
mean, it's a lot, you know,
the
but
gatekeepers, bro.
it's the gatekeepers, and it's always been that way, and it's all relationships. And um, yeah, man, I mean, that is so true. Like, I think talent obviously plays
It does, in the same sense that like our products has to be there.
exactly. It's already
The
there.
quality has to be there. And by the way, that's not nothing. That's like a very big part. Most people don't have the products.
Exactly.
But then again, like something like Mad Happy, I don't think the products were particularly special. I think they could be replaced by 50, probably 100 other brands, but
Yeah.
they happen to have the connections and the I'd even take it a step further than connections. I'd say I'd give them credit as far as its marketing intelligence in being able to utilize those connections and work those angles to get the publicity on them. I don't think that comes from, I don't think everyone that has the connections knows how to use them in that sense. So I give that credit. And I think their clothing looks cool, but
Expand on that though, as far as like people who have connections not knowing how would you use it? What do you mean?
I think that it takes a certain intelligence for like from the people who are from Mad Happy, just because they might have had connections or had money behind them. I've seen a lot of brands that have those same things going for them, and they still
They don't
can't
know how to
capitalize.
use it in the right way. Yeah.
They can't capitalize on it. And they
Mm-hmm.
don't know how to expand and multiply. I've seen companies even on Instagram that have 20,000 followers and have good products, and they're teed up for success, and then they die off. Because in that sense, to me, it comes across as they don't have enough of a story to them. They don't have enough of a why they're doing it to keep propelling them forward.
That stuff, it's also the way that you're able to communicate with people. There's something about you, and I feel like I have very similar quality as far as like one-on-one type stuff. There, there's a certain like affability or charisma or whatever, the way that you talk to people that like can open certain doors. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's like something like let's talk about you specifically, right?
Okay.
When you have conversations with people, even like talking about what you're doing on the pickleball court, like there's a way that you go about conversations that's like, I don't even think that you're thinking about it. I think a lot of it's innate. You know what I mean? It's like just the way that you approach, you're like, oh yeah, like you're just like having a good time with them. And like you're not overly pressing them on a certain thing or being like too standoffish. It's like making someone feel really comfortable while also maybe long-term play, like getting something that you want, but like doing it in the right way. It's just knowing how to like communicate with people, you
So
know?
I guess what I'm taking away from that, you're saying that when I communicate with people, especially big shots, I feel like you're getting at, when I talk to them about whether it's pickleball or my clothing brands or whatever, I'm not necessarily like trying to get something from them. I'm also not pressing them. I don't want this one thing. I don't want another thing. I'm kind of just having a good time. And that might lead to something, but
Right.
uh you're saying it's kind of commendable my tone in which
Yeah,
I
your
kind of
tone, your tone. And I don't even know how intentional that is.
it is intentional.
It is intentional. And
I
I'm not,
will say hopefully it's not natural. Yeah, what?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I do a very I mean, we're different people, but like as far as that intent, and we approach things differently, like talking to people. But
However, we do talk about mindfulness a lot in this.
yeah.
And it is a lens I intend to look through. I've told you sort of like self-help wise, it was important for me to learn a long time ago, especially with show business stuff,
Mm-hmm.
that I wasn't whether I was going to go into comedy or this or that I wasn't going to act like I needed something from everyone that I was around. You
Yeah.
know, even if I'm hanging out with Ben Affleck or whoever it might be, I'm not going to be auditioning for them, even though they can change your life in 2 seconds. So it's like I know, and this is through a lot of like whether it's stoicism or Christian stuff or whatever mindfulness type stuff. I think it's a positive thing for me. I tell myself, and I've hammered this in for the last long time, but and maybe I did this anyway subconsciously before that. I try to, and I hang out with people, have a good time, no matter who it is, and laugh.
Right.
And then I also try to kick back and just hang and know that I have to tell myself before, work hard on not needing anything from them. Even if I literally do, even if I'm in an audition or a job interview, I literally tell myself, don't need anything from them.
Mhm.
So like if it doesn't work out, it's not meant to be. So like you literally have to, that means that I get to kick my feet up a little bit, mentally,
Exactly. And
while also at the same time engaging, trying to show them a good time and having fun.
exactly. And you can do all that in a genuine way. So yes, you're intentional about it, but it's doing
That's
it
my closest thing to treating everyone the same way. They're all part, every person is part of the same. And within that, there's all these little details. But as far as my lens I look through, I try to approach everyone the same way. I have a history in details with every different person. It's so different, obviously, but it levels the playing field in this process of life. Because for me, I'm just like, okay, it's tough enough to survive, but I'm not going to need anything yet. At the same time, my social dynamic is like trying to laugh, have a good time. We might not be promised tomorrow. If we want to go macro and get real, we might not be alive tomorrow. So it's none of it's that important anyway. Try to have a fucking good time. And I don't always abide by that, but that's something that I strive for.
yeah. Also, I think, and the reason why I'm even bringing this shit up is because I think a lot of the time creatives put a lot of emphasis on their talent and like the product and how can I get better? How can I get better? Which is all good. I think it's important to work on your
Part of it.
because that's like the foundation, right? You can't sell something that doesn't exist. So you need that.
That goes without saying. Yeah.
But in this industry, uh I don't even think it's 50-50 as far as like why certain things get chosen, why certain deals get made. I don't think talent
Yeah,
is
neither.
50% of it, maybe
Yeah.
30, maybe.
Right, right.
And most people don't really, uh, it's not really talked about. It's not really talked about.
Not what's it called? Candidly like that enough. I mean, I think it is in closed corners. But yeah, isn't it funny? I think it's so much of who you know. And I just saw something the other day too. I've had a big week with people and stuff. It's awesome. Someone told me something big and they're like, dude, just big things are gonna go down with this mug right here. Uh and like that's just it comes from it's not just someone giving you a job. It's not as simple as that. That's what I thought originally. They're like, oh, there's no such thing as free lunch. No one's giving out free. It's not that. It's getting you into the rooms, dude. It's getting you into the fucking rooms. It's introducing you to the people that you'll have commonalities with, that you'll be able to work with, whether it's this time or another time. It's making those connections. Sorry. That's it's because that's bad for a lot of people. It's bad for people that are scared of being social and everything. And I could fall into that a lot. I get it. But I had a feeling that's how it was, and it is how it is. Unless you're lucky, unless you get a giant job and you crush it out of the gates, and then your work speaks for itself, and then you get to just keep getting jobs. But for most of us, blue collar mugs, we got to slime it out with the rest of them and try to the best, you know.
Absolutely. And I think it comes from like an intentionality, like the right energy, a true like excitement for your thing, vibing out with people, like you're saying, like commonalities, and yeah, getting in the right
Putting
room.
yourself out there. Putting yourself out there.
And bro, like here's something that is so true, right? Like from the writing side. Most people think of writers as these like curmudgeon-y, let me get in my dark fucking corner and not emerge from my cave. And yeah, they might come up with something masterful, right? And then they come out of their fucking cave and they're like fucking gremlin because they don't know how to socialize with people. And that wigs people out, bro. Like, what, you're gonna go into a pitch meeting like that? And the reason I bring that shit up is because if you want to be a professional writer, I even heard like David Sandberg, the guy, the Lights Out horror guy, he talked about this. He said that there's a guy, he didn't name names, but he said that there is a writer director who everyone knows in like this genre space who gets all the jobs, whose stuff isn't like everything that they've come out with is like he says is like mediocre. To him, it's like kind of mid, but he always is working. And the reason why is because that guy, whoever it is, can go into a room with executives, like a fucking like table filled with executives, and fucking work the whole room and make everyone feel good and sell everyone on the vision. You are a salesman, you're entrepreneurial. It's like that's really how shit happens. So yes, you can emerge out of your cave with like a fucking masterpiece, but if you're not, you can read the same script and see a different thing. Someone else can read it and see a completely different thing. You have to be able to give everyone your vision, and that comes down to socializing and communicating that.
It depends, yeah. And if you don't have that necessarily at that time, maybe you transfer it to someone that does have those skills to be able to pull it off, and maybe they don't always. But and what does it really mean to be a good salesperson? You know, it sounds slimy, sales,
Sound
but at
slime.
the end of the day,
Yeah.
like the person that's gonna be a really good pitcher and stuff. I mean, I find a lot of these executives and stuff that I know, they're all really good at pitching. They're all kind of funny, and they all can like sum something up in one fucking sentence, and they know how to pull at the heartstrings to people. They know what the audience wants to see, and they know if the product they have delivers that or not, and they know how to translate that to the audience. So it's like, yeah, they're going to be pretty fucking good in this room of people. Even my cousin Tyler, who worked in these writers' rooms of all these shows and stuff, Mad Men and everything, he's pretty damn good at being able to sum something up quick and like rip it out. I think I'm pretty good at this point with that. I think you're probably pretty good too. Um, so yeah, that's that.
Yeah, I'm glad we touched on that because I don't think we've ever talked about that before. But it's a huge part of it.
I mean, it's just kind of it's a different era as well. The fact that all different types of jobs, not to mention just jobs other than the actor, you know, it used to be like the actor's the performer, but then it became like, oh, now the writers are actors and now you can do anything in Hollywood. Like it's not just like you're stuck in one corner. But now because of TikTok and everything, even if you're a chiropractic, you're a fucking performer and you have to tell a story and everything. Or like if you're a fucking soccer coach, you know, you're gonna have a TikTok and be a storyteller. So like, I don't know. I just heard someone the other day say the storytelling skill is more kind of important than ever with being able to monetize it, which isn't a bad thing. I don't think money just means people care. So that being said, there's probably still a place for people who are curmudgeons and don't want to be social.
Yeah.
But I think it's not so easy to like just sit in your box. That's a luxury.
It,
Who wouldn't want to do that? I read in like Jenna Fisher's book, the actress from The Office, a while back. She came out with a book, and well, probably 5 years ago. And she said her first year in Hollywood, she came out here. She like had done theater school. She was really passionate about acting, and like she thought everything was going to go in a certain way for her once she got to Hollywood. She had it all kind of laid out. She thought she had her like way up. But she gets out to Hollywood. She literally like didn't leave her apartment for like a year. It was just maybe she went to acting class and she couldn't get an agent and she'd stay home. And then she realized I got to get out there. And it was just a lens that she started looking through and pushing herself to get out there.
he
And then
was like
stuff.
scared of rejection or something, or
Honestly, I think she was, which I'm guilty of too. I think she was kind of just like stuck in routine.
Mhm.
I think it was just she was like approaching Hollywood industry like any other job. Like, hey, if I just act from 9 to 5, then that's gonna do the work. And then 5 to 9 p.m. I get to just chill out and do nothing. She didn't get to act at first. And then she also like wasn't nothing was falling her way other than that. So she wasn't using her imagination to get out there doing the sort of networking stuff and nothing happened.
Didn't it take
Then
her
when
like
she started talking,
or something before she got?
what?
Didn't it take her like a decade before she got her big break or something?
I'm sure it took at least, yeah.
I know the guy who played Jim, John Krasinski, was like, he went to the Office audition and he said to himself, if I don't get this, I'm out of the business. There are so many stories like that. It's like Bradley Cooper after he shot uh a Hangover, he went on a plane and the thing was released as he was on the plane. And he was like, he didn't have Wi-Fi or anything. So he was like, listen, I put everything that I have into that movie, which is funny because it's the fucking Hangover. But he was like, I put everything I have into that film. And he's like, hey, you know what? If this doesn't work out, I'm just like, I'm done. And then the plane touched down and he looked at his phone and it was like best reviews of a comedy for like a decade or whatever. And he was like, okay, I guess I'll still be an actor.
That's so crazy because he'd done some huge movies before that, I thought.
A lot of I hear a lot of stories like that about like thinking about resilience and persistence. It's like when you're on like the bottom, when you feel like you've done fucking everything for whatever reason, that's the moment when shit starts to turn a little bit.
I've been at that point a few times already.
Yeah. But so have you seen that where I mean, bro, you've definitely had some wins recently. So like when you were in those moments, did something like that happen for you where even like a glimmer of something where it was like, oh, okay.
100%
Yeah.
proven wrong so many times. Like that's one of my famous quotes is like I'm like very impassioned about my opinions, but I'm happy to eat my words immediately after.
Like you think something's not going to work out and then it does type deal or
Oh,
what?
dude, we talked about it last week, I think, or 2 weeks ago. Like, I feel like at this point, I'm so quick to write things off.
Yeah.
Like if something doesn't have a huge budget behind it and stuff, I've never done anything with a huge budget. So I'm just like, this is some shitty thing. This is some shitty thing. And then, even the fact that my Lifetime movie came out and like people saw it everywhere and were hitting me up about it. My agent posted about it. Like, not that many people get that experience. It's a lot more than most. And like, I didn't have any idea coming from that type of thing. I don't know. And so when that happens, you're just like you got to celebrate the win and you're just still on the path. And then like this movie in Canada, like which I still haven't gotten paid for. And like it happens, you're in Canada getting the vacation and stuff, and you're just like, all right, I guess this is kind of what I signed up for this whole show business thing. And but yeah, so many times you're just like, I really would prefer a career with money over this.
Don't you think when you write something off like that, it's and I mean those examples that you gave are like tangible jobs where you're just kind of like, but even if something, I'm sure you've had situations where like you thought that you weren't going to get a role or something, but you did. Has that shit happened too?
My gosh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So like I feel like in those situations, because I do that shit too, I think it almost is a defense mechanism because you want to protect yourself from like, because secretly you want this shit, right? But like kind of writing it off and being like, like whatever, or like I don't think I got it
That
is
feels fun.
it's
So I have
what?
two things to bring up.
Yeah,
Sorry to cut you off.
go ahead.
Two things I want to bring up. First thing is the Netflix job that I got. Bro, I came back from a fucking funeral and did the audition. I had no time. It was due the next day. I get a Netflix audition for like one scene. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like I hadn't gotten a Netflix audition before that.
Uh-huh.
It's for a comedy.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, I'm so sunburned from sitting at a funeral outdoors for 8 hours. And I'm just like, I can't even do this. My mom's like, I'm with my mom, and she's like, you have to do this audition. Do your best. What are you doing? And it's like, it was like pulling teeth to do it, dude. It was awful.
Are you with us? You're
There
breaking. Oh, there you go. Yeah,
you
yeah.
go.
So you got the Netflix thing. You had no idea. You just wrote it off, and then
It was after a funeral, dude, where I was sunburned. I was like, I look like I'm coming back from Palm Beach, Florida, or something. Because I was in the sun all day. This funeral outdoors burning. Wow. I just realized it's even more serendipitous because of whose funeral it was and the fact that I got this acting job. But then I did the audition. I thought it was horrible, genuinely. Isn't that funny? Because like I just did one today, for instance, and like I thought it was pretty good, but like I remember how I felt, and I genuinely felt like I missed the bill. Anyway, I did go on vacation like 2 weeks later. I'm in Miami with my dad. I'm on the tennis court with our best family friend who had Alzheimer's, like really bad. And I literally get pinned for the part that day. One of the best days of my life. I look at it and I tell them, I'm just like, I just got fucking pinned for a Netflix show. Like, dude, I've not gotten like a network TV show yet. This is like psycho.
means what? That the deal wasn't finalized or what?
It means it's not finalized, but that
You have
they have you down. They just need to like cross the T's and dot the I's.
it. So you got the role.
I was just like, fuck yes. What a turnaround. Ended up being the best experience ever. Talk about giving you great confidence and stuff working on that thing. The second thing is, I just heard Doug Ellen from the creator of Entourage talk the other day about Kevin Dillon, who played Johnny Drama, his audition. And he came in, their stories, psycho. Talk about what we talk about. We'll have him on the podcast eventually. I'm pretty tight with him now. But his, which is a flex, name drop, but he talks about Kevin Dillon came in for his audition straight off the golf course.
Mm.
Clearly didn't really give a fuck. He knew the part inside and out, whatever. He was like a pro. He was great. And literally made the words sing. It was like the best audition ever. But like he points out that Kevin Dillon was probably at a point in his career. He'd seen everything. He'd done everything. He knew this was just some pilot. He's just, which is like I am already. Like when I have an audition or something, I don't break my back. I do my thing and I know it's like you either get the part or you don't.
Yeah.
Um, After that, Doug Ellen was so passionate about Kevin Dillon. And by the way, he wasn't excited about him before. When he heard he was coming in, he rolled his eyes. But then Kevin Dillon won him over because he was so perfect for the part and just such a good actor. He knew how to nail it. But then he pushed it on HBO. HBO didn't want Kevin Dillon. They said you have to find other actors. He said literally, like there are other people that could have played Ari Gold besides Jeremy Piven, as great as he was. They could have had Robert Downey Jr. They could have had a lot of these people. He said for Johnny Drama, there was no one else, and HBO didn't want them. Doug Ellen almost walked. He almost said, like, I clearly don't know anything about this industry. By the way, if you haven't heard, I can't believe I didn't tell you about this before, but Doug Ellen has a podcast now called Is This Something You Might Be Interested in? And he just kind of rambles about life and coming up in Hollywood. and it's fucking brilliant. Like you got to listen to it, dude. It's right up your alley. I'll send you a link to it. But so he talks about like he at that point was like, there's nothing I know about Hollywood. Also, simultaneously at HBO, Richard Linklater, the creator of Days of Confused, Boyhood, etc., was making a pilot, a TV fucking pilot that HBO only had room for one show, either Entourage or Linklater's show. So he figured his show was probably going to get axed.
Yeah.
Uh, Next thing you know, by the way, Entourage only had a chance because Mark Wahlberg, luckily, he doesn't say how he got Wahlberg, but Wahlberg put his name on it. That was it. He didn't really like care that much about it, but because it had his name on it, that's what gave Doug Ellen the freedom to develop it for 2 years with these people who he said at HBO didn't even really like it. They thought it was kind of this like half porno show about wishful thinking, these guys running around. Uh, so like the fact that it got
What you
made,
just said too, though, as far as like the execs at HBO is so important to hear, bro. It's so important for people to hear because like there are so many fucking examples of projects in every stage where the higher ups or whoever makes decisions don't like it for whatever reason because they might not see the vision for it or they might not whatever, and they're wrong. And that's
wrong.
what a lot of creatives don't get. It's like people can be wrong who are in these positions. So
And
if
they're
you,
very convicted. They're very passionate, convicted,
yeah, yeah. So
but
go
it's
ahead.
subjective.
And you also mentioned they didn't like Kevin Dillon. Is that what you said?
Oh, big time. They didn't like him at all. And then after a while, Doug Ellen just said, you know what? I gotta force it down their throats. And they took it and they said, okay, you know what? Wrong. Even though he felt like he was too old. That's what it was. He felt like he was too old, even though he's supposed to be the big brother. They
Yeah.
said he felt like he wouldn't hang out with these guys, but they accepted it. Then they finagled again. They rescinded it and said, we're not down for Kevin Dillon again. And this was after like I think the pilot was already made. They made the pilot and they said they're not down for Kevin Dillon. You have to reshoot it. Doug Ellen literally, he threw up. He said he threw up when he heard that. He didn't know what to do. And he pushed again back and then they just took it. And then he did get some justice because after the pilot, it was a couple weeks after, they formally apologized and said, you were right. He's great. He's best. And he went on to win Emmys.
Wow, dude. Wow. 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 Wow.
It's like a gospel moment. Yeah, because
Bro, here's the thing. When you're in the driver's seat of your own projects in real time, present day, and you're getting no's or you're getting feedback that they don't like a certain thing or whatever, whatever, it's so hard to not take that shit personal. And it's so hard to not be like, well, they must be right because they're in this position. If you really believe in your gut that your shit is working, that it's right, that it's,
that's why you got to be, there's a few different tools. You got to be a student of the game. You got to really make sure that you're confident in your stuff. You got to keep getting better and better and better. You have to have good mentors, ideally. Find yourself around people, like try your best, which is not easy to come by. But then also, like back to what my dad and my uncle always say, they go, what do they know? Good or bad? You get great reviews, take the positive criticism from him or just the positivity. It's great. But again, what do they know? It's subjective. And then on the negative, so it's good to have strong opinions for yourself. That being said, I have strong opinions all the time on screenplays I read and stuff. I think they're horrible. And then they end up being incredible movies. So I recognize that it's a crapshoot. And by the way, it's a big time timing thing. Doug Ellen also goes on to say that he invested in his buddy's company that was coming up because his buddy was super smart. The buddy's company got priced out on Wall Street for $10 million or $100 million. Doug Ellen was about to make a $10 million score. It ended up going bankrupt in the dot-com bubble somehow. And Doug Ellen didn't lose anything. He didn't make anything. He was like, whatever. Then the company raised a sequel round of money. Doug Ellen couldn't afford it because he lost his initial investment, which was $20,000. That company, the second one, went on to make $1 billion or something. Doug Ellen missed out on it. He doesn't beat himself up. Smart guy. he recognizes you take a lot of shots as like a player. But isn't that wild? Like when you're in the game, you win some, you lose some.
Absolutely, man. And the way that things pan out is just fucking wild. I love hearing that story, bro.
You
I
gotta
think
listen to his podcast, by the way. You genuinely, it's so up your. I mean, you should eat up the 3 episodes tonight.
give us the name again.
Is this something you might be interested in?
Okay.
He's really, really funny. Just a New Yorker, like loves. He wishes he never was a writer. He thinks he should have gone into radio instead because he loves podcasting so much.
That's cool
And
that
he
he got a podcast though, and then he's doing that.
yeah, yeah, it's sick.
Better late than never.
Exactly.
Bro. So yeah, I mean, I think also to say like stay the course, believe in your project. If you believe in it, fucking just, stay the course, man. That's
I
just because
guess
someone sounds convicted of something of their opinion does not mean that they're right. And that's something everyone has to remember.
that's gonna be the title for the pod tonight.
It's a long title, but yeah, I'll get that in. Good seeing you, brother.
You too, my man. Hopefully in person next week.
I'd love that. I'll see you next week.
All right, boyo. Peace.